Write it in the comments. Hey, everybody over in the YouTube, Facebook, Smoothie Shred world. It's Dr. G here from Goodbye Lupus, ready to do our live Q&A as I've been doing every week now. I'm very excited. I think this is the seventh one. Is it the seventh one? Eighth one. It's my eighth one, according to Leo. It's my eighth one. So I have been excitedly looking forward to this, and I've been getting really great feedback from you guys. So I appreciate all of you guys who have been letting me know how helpful this is. That fuels me forward. Give more, do more. That's how I live, right? So if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the comments, and I will get to as many as I can in the hour. And I know I cannot get every single one. Hundreds of people show up from every different social media side. But what I've been told, which I'm glad about, is usually somebody asks a question that gives you an answer that you needed, even if you weren't the one chosen to be the next contestant on The Price is Right. You still get something out of it. So hopefully that's how it goes today. And one thing I did want to start with, a little lesson of the day. Maybe I'll add this to the Q&As. Today I was working in depth with someone who is a psychologist herself, who is struggling with self-sabotage. And we were identifying a lot of the different defense mechanisms that she's using to keep herself from taking action. So here's somebody who knows they need to take action. They have a serious disease, cancer, and yet still eating things that are extremely inflammatory, knowingly inflammatory, things like fried chicken, right? So what do you do if you both know? What does it mean if you both know something's bad for you and you're doing it anyway? What does that mean, right? That means you don't really have an information problem. This is now in the realm of motivation and emotional work. And to be completely frank with you, this is the majority of the work that we do in things like my rapid recovery group, because all the information is here, right? I mean, I put my protocol out to the public many, many years ago as a public service. I've been doing these live Q&As. I have all the social media content. I give all donating information for free because I want the world to know what to do, right? So most of the time, it's not an information problem. It is application. It's motivation, right? So what we were identifying is these things that she was doing that was holding her back. So if you do a wellness appointment with me, it's 75 minutes. A lot of that time usually ends up being, why haven't you taken action on what you already know, right? Because usually they're fans. They're following me. They're watching my content. So if you're not doing it, then why? Let's dig in, not as a you're bad punishment thing, but let's get real. And so some of the things we identified is, one, the delaying tactic. I'll start tomorrow. Any of you guys do that over on Instagram? Any of you guys do that over YouTube, Facebook? Tomorrow. And if you're starting tomorrow, then, well, do whatever you want today. And it's really important to remember that what you do today counts. Your body receives it. So if you have cancer, if you have autoimmune disease, if you have heart disease, then your body doesn't really care what your plans are for tomorrow. What did you do today? Because what you're doing today is either getting sicker or getting healthier. Are you feeding cancer or are you starving cancer? Are you feeding autoimmune disease or are you killing autoimmune disease? What are you doing with this meal, right? So the delaying tactic is a big one. And another one is kind of like a denial thing. Well, a bite won't hurt. I was pretty good all week. So what's a little bit, right? So this kind of denial thing, again, being present with yourself is so important to say, no, what I'm doing right now really does matter. Every bite matters. All right. So really, really getting present. And the other big one, which I bet a lot of you guys can relate to, is the, well, I need comfort. And I use junky, sugary, oily, meaty, dairy, whatever foods for comfort. And really learning a different way to comfort yourself. This is an addictive pathway, right? Someone who's trying to be clean from alcohol, they don't give in to alcohol on a good day. They give in to alcohol on a bad day. So you need a different coping skill for a bad day, because alcohol will destroy your life if you're an alcoholic, right? So if you are trying to get healthy and you eat inflammatory things on a bad day, you need to work on new ways to comfort yourself. Real comfort, not momentary comfort that's also killing you, but real comfort that actually makes your life better. So one of the biggest things you can do, my little lesson for the day before I get to the Q&A part, is to be honest with yourself. Be mindful of what every bite is doing. Don't delay taking care of yourself, because what you do today matters. All right. And find ways to comfort yourself that actually completely promote health, rather than justifying things that are harmful to you as a source of comfort. So those are the lessons that you have from the sessions that I already had today. And let me go ahead and get over to the question and answer period so I can answer as many questions as I can. Again, I do this for you folks because what I want is that you take this information, you stop delaying, you stop making excuses, and you actually start getting healthy. All right. It's worth it. And I want you to go ahead and do that and get the life you want. I have a big birthday coming up next month, and it's really been on my mind a lot because I'm going to be 46. And that will be 30 years since I was told that I had 6 months to live as a 16-year-old kid. Still kicking, still here. And it's worth it. I can tell you it's worth it. Being alive, being healthy, looking forward to birthdays and aging, it's wonderful, right? So I want you guys to all have a story like mine. I want you all to live as many happy, healthy years as you can. And I want to hear all of your great results. So make sure you share them and tag me online when you get well, so I know how well this is working for everybody. Okay, so let me see. Let's look over here to, hi, Jasila. Okay. All right, so Cindy over on the Facebook side, Cindy Keiko, almost like cacao, says, I have an allergy to spinach and other greens that are similar. What greens besides cabbage and romaine do you recommend? Thanks. Okay, Cindy, so if you're looking for hypernourishment, oh, it actually lets me show it. That's kind of cool. So if you're looking for a way to hypernourish, right? So hypernourishment is that intentional overdose in nutrition that is designed to optimize cellular repair and immune function, right? Healthy immune function. If you want to do that, then what you really are looking for are nutrient-dense vegetables. So they don't have to be greens, all right? Some of the most nutrient-dense vegetables, or high nutrient vegetables, as I like to call them, are green, like kale and spinach, very green, right? But not all of them. So if you look up cruciferous vegetables, you can find a lot of vegetables that are high nutrient, that'll deliver that hypernourishment effect that you're looking for, and they don't have to be green. So anything cruciferous. So it can be things like cabbage, any color, but it can also be radishes. It can also be different other broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. There's a lot of different options out there, and there's a lot of different colors out there. So what I recommend is you just Google cruciferous vegetables and see if you can find any of them that you can tolerate. You only need one. And as soon as you have one, you're able to do hypernourishment. Romaine, by the way, is not a high nutrient vegetable. You can eat as much of it as you want, but it's not a high nutrient vegetable. Okay, let's go over here to see what YouTube's doing. Let's see. So, all right, Torzitron 1. All right, cool name. Hey, doctor, I'm interested in the detox aspects of the autoimmune AI protocol. Is there any way to enhance these effects, supplements or diet? So I'm not actually clear on what you're asking in terms of the detox effects, but if you're talking about the ability of the diet to help you release toxins and built up disease and byproducts maybe your body is not eliminating, well, that is what our protocol does, right? So for example, the high amounts of omega-3 fatty acids from flax seeds, chia seeds, cold pressed flax oil, things like that, those actually will incorporate into your cellular membranes and the phospholipid membranes of your cells and enhance its ability to release toxins, pull in good nutrients, and optimize cellular communication. So actually the hypernourishment protocol itself will do that. And if you want to enhance it, then don't eat any other foods that could be adding toxicity. Don't eat any animal products. And if you want the fastest, most profound effects, then do it raw. And that should give you the results that you're looking for. All right, let's see here. I got a trapped flaxseed. Hold on. Had a little snack before I came on. All right, let's go over to the Instagram side. Hold on while I scroll. You guys fill this up quickly, so I got to scroll. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for all the hellos. All right. Plant-based food moments says, hi, were you immune for toxoplasmosis when you were pregnant, and did you do smoothies and raw? Well, I don't know that I could say I was immune, but I did not have it. When I was pregnant, did I do smoothies and raw? So pregnancy is a time that makes it more complicated, right? I always say pregnancy is a survival game. Mostly because when I'm pregnant, I vomit for the entire time. so I actually can't hypernourish when I'm pregnant. You think I'm slim now? I lose weight in the first trimester. I usually lose 10 to 12 pounds in my first trimester because nothing stays in, it all comes out. And my doctors told me, well, you have a very healthy response to estrogen, but it feels like garbage, right? So for me, one, I didn't plan to get pregnant until I was healthy. So once I'd been healthy for 4 years and there was no signs or symptoms of the disease, and my kidneys were back to normal, I had no blood clots. That's when I finally decided that I did want to try having children. Before then, I was okay with either adopting or having somebody else do surrogacy or something because I didn't want to risk my life. I like being alive. I like being here. And I also knew that even if I survived pregnancy, it could cause problems with the child. They could have heart block. They could have neonatal lupus. And if I got sicker and gave birth, maybe I'd be in the hospital and the baby would be home. It just was not something I ever wanted to deal with. I wanted to survive. I wanted to be well. So I only decided to get pregnant when I'd been healthy for years and there was no signs of disease. That's when I decided. And it was a good thing because, again, not a lot of food was able to stay in here when I'm pregnant. So with pregnancy, the best thing I could do was to eat the foods that would stay down in the amounts that would stay down. And I had to find a way to get the nourishment in whenever I could. So the good news is when you're pregnant, your baby will feed off of your body. So I had a nourished, healthy body. My babies were very healthy with whatever food I could keep down. And the moment I give birth, I'm voraciously shoving food into my body. So I did the best I could. So for example, with my second pregnancy, I couldn't do smoothies. If I had any smoothies, I would projectile vomit. And after detailing the inside of my car twice, decided that that wasn't going to work out. So I had to find ways to get the foods in. My husband would give me shot glasses of smoothie, because I could do that. But we had to find ways around it. But again, I was healthy. So I stayed plant-based and I ate raw vegetables however I could. And I stayed very, very hydrated. I definitely had my gallon of water a day. But yeah, it was survival. So what I recommend for folks is if you are dealing with disease and you would like to be pregnant one day, focus on healing first. Because if you are like me and when you get pregnant, you don't have the ability to eat the way you should and your body is still sick, that's a problem now. I had a client who didn't listen to me about this. She already had kidney problems and really wanted to get pregnant and got pregnant with active lupus nephritis and ended up in kidney failure pregnant. And she wouldn't do hypernourishment. She tried, but she just couldn't get over the psychological aversions. And she was just eating chicken and all sorts of terrible stuff. And her kidneys just failed. And it was horrible, right? So when it comes to a nutrition protocol, the ability to eat is essential, right? You have to be able to eat. So I really recommend the healing first. Now, if you are already healthy and doing well and you get pregnant, then a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet that also includes cooked foods is fine. You can also do it raw. We've had people do our protocol raw and heal while pregnant. Like Rachel is a really popular one who made a beautiful video when she was pregnant. And she's had 2 kids now and never had a relapse after doing the 4-week rapid recovery program with me in her last month of pregnancy before giving birth. So she healed from lupus and Sjogren's while pregnant, 100% raw, and then has stayed healthy. And her next pregnancy, she was able to do on a high raw plant-based diet, still no relapse, no medications have been necessary. And it's been like 4 years now. So pretty cool. So I hope that answers the question, no matter where you are in the pregnancy thoughts or discussion or planning or experience. So, okay, let's go back over here. Let's see here. Let me find a question. Okay, here's a good one I haven't seen. All right, Juanita, it says, hi, do you have any experience with the protocol on people with epilepsy? Thank you. We actually do. And the first case that we had actually wasn't someone who came to me for disease. It was someone who went to my husband, Thomas Tadlock, because he wanted to get fit. So he's a guy who had already had epilepsy for years. And I think it was like 4 or 5 years. I can't remember the exact number. If he was here, he would tell me. And so he'd already been sick for years and he no longer could drive because of epilepsy. And he just was trying to lose fat. So he did my husband's Miracle Metabolism program. My husband has a best-selling book, Miracle Metabolism, about the impact of nutrition on your metabolic rate, your ability to lose fat, gain muscle, etc. Right? So that's his expertise. And so he went to Thomas, and he went on a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet with the exercise routine and everything for weight loss. And what happened is his seizures went away. And his seizures were gone for years while following the plant-based diet and keeping up hypernourishment. And he got the weight results he wanted to, but the seizures went away. After about a few years, and again, I forget the exact numbers and I don't want to make them up, but after a few years of being seizure-free, he actually decided to incorporate meat back into his diet. And very quickly after eating meat again, he started getting seizures again. So it was a very cool experience on multiple levels. One, because he was able to stop seizures for the first time and to even get off his medicine and get his driver's license again, all because he changed his diet and doing a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet, and proved that it was actually being caused by the diet when he added meat back and the seizures returned. So we have seen that replicated with other people, but this is a great way to go when it comes to epilepsy. And it's so much better right now. The only diet that's ever recommended for epilepsy with doctors is a ketogenic diet, which is a lot of the animal product version of it, with a lot of heavy butters and fats and meats. And as I talked about last time, and I posted a clip from it yesterday on social media, that is a diet that's going to create more inflammation and disease. So we don't want to do that. Now, you can do a ketogenic plant-based diet. Absolutely, you can, and use like avocado for fats and olives and, nuts and seeds, flax and chia, all that kind of stuff, which would be way, way, way safer. But a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet has worked really, really well and is much less restrictive. All right. All right, let's do another one because we got Smoothie Shred and we got regular Facebook. So let's go over here. Carrie, I'm on the lupus protocol and on prednisone. I'm going through withdrawal. Will this help with that and heal my adrenals? So this is a really good one. You guys are asking new questions today. I'm enjoying this. So withdrawal is a really, really big deal. It's a very significant phenomenon. So when you've been on any medication for a prolonged period of time, prednisone, pain medication, anti-inflammatory medication, the symptom of withdrawal is always the opposite of the effect of the medication. Again, the symptom of withdrawal is always going to be the opposite of the effect of the medication. So if you get hooked into the habit of taking pain medicine every day for headaches, if you try to stop that pain medicine, that day you will get a headache. And people will often say, oh, I still need pain medicine. I still have headaches. And they don't even realize that the reason they are now having headaches is not because of the initial reason, but withdrawal. Well, with prednisone, there's a very pronounced withdrawal syndrome because you're literally suppressing that system in your body, right? So if you're getting exogenous or outside sources of something, your body will stop producing it because our bodies are trying to preserve energy. Right? So if you're getting exogenous or outside cortisol, then you stop producing the same amount of cortisol yourself because you don't need to. And that means that if you suddenly stop or reduce prednisone, you are suddenly going to have a deficit because your body doesn't have the ability to bounce back. It didn't get a warning. Nobody called and told me this was going to happen. So now all of a sudden you have this sudden decrease in your effective cortisol, and because it is anti-inflammatory, it's suppressing the inflammatory response, you suddenly can get a surge of inflammation that is a result of withdrawal, not because you're sick again. So people often tell me, I cannot get better because the moment I try to lower my steroids, my joint pain gets worse. But that joint pain might not be from your autoimmune disease anymore. It might be from withdrawal. So I just want to explain that for everybody who doesn't already understand that, because I think it's a very important thing to understand that when you get healthy, for example, when you do my protocol and you get healthy, your labs look gorgeous, your pain is better, your energy is wonderful. If you're taking steroids or prednisone and you try to lower the amount, you may get a surge of symptoms. Now, that is not a flare, and I don't like my clients using the word flare because a flare means an increase in disease activity. It's not an increase in disease activity if there's no disease, right? It's an increase in pain as a withdrawal from the steroids. So even people who are doing the protocol correctly and who are disease-free can get that withdrawal. It's going to happen. It's physiological. So Carrie, what you normally would do is, so number one, you want to do the protocol 100%, right? I recommend go full goodbye autoimmune disease protocol, full on, right? To optimize your body's ability to adjust. So remember that the hypernourishment protocol will facilitate the communication between cells, ability to receive signals and send signals, hormones, all of those different things. So if your body needs to know quickly that we're getting reduction in cortisol and we need to start producing more, then the best way for you to be able to handle that effectively and quickly would be to make sure that you're doing the protocol fully so that your body's optimized, right? And then the way people normally do it is so they'll lower it, they might have a surge of symptoms, and then when the symptoms go away, then they'll go to the next time that they lower it. If you try to lower too rapidly, then you might feel really, really sick and not give your body the time it needs. I'm working with someone right now. I helped this woman's son, a young boy who is doing extremely well in my protocol with his autoimmune disease, and he's feeling great. But mom really desperately wants him to get off the steroids. She hates the fact that he's on these steroids. And so she keeps trying to lower it too quickly. And whenever she lowers it, his complement drops, markers start to change. And it's like, just give him time. He's on such a low dose now. He's under 5 milligrams. Like, let his body adjust, let him get back to baseline. And then when everything's back to baseline, then go to the next dose. And you really do need to use your doctor's help for that, because you can really get sick from suddenly dropping cortisol, especially when you've been habituated for a long time. The best example I had of this case was someone who actually did my first rapid recovery group in 2017. She did it for pleurisy, so lupus in her lungs. And every time she had pleurisy, she'd end up in the ICU because it'd be so bad. And so she came into the group from the ICU, got home, joined the rapid recovery group, right? And so what happened was she quickly had all of her symptoms go away. She went from barely able to move without pain to running. She was jogging, right? She had to drop out of law school because of the pleurisy and the lupus. She got back into law school. So she was doing amazing. Back in law school, working, running, amazing, right? So her doctors go, we don't know what happened, but you look amazing. Let's start lowering the steroids. Well, they lowered the steroids by a big leap and her lungs hurt. And so she texted me stressed out. All my clients get my cell phone number. So if you have something going on, you text me, I'm here, right? So she texts me, I'm freaking out. I thought I was healed. And now I've got these symptoms. It feels like the pleurisy is coming back. The doctor said it's the lupus coming back. I said, no way. I already saw your labs. You don't have lupus. There's no lupus. This is from the steroid withdrawal. I bet you. So her doctors reran her labs, no lupus. And then the doctor said, maybe we tapered the steroids too quickly. I said, yeah. So I didn't say that in my head. I said that. So they put her back on the same dose of steroids and instead lowered it slowly. Immediately, the pleurisy pain went away, when normally it would have been 2 weeks at least in the ICU. Immediately, the pain went away because it was the steroids. And when they slowly tapered her, she got off of it completely and has maintained remission. So it is really important, Carrie, to allow your doctors to taper you as slowly as you need. And yes, 100% do the goodbye autoimmune disease protocol during that time period, so your body has the best ability possible to respond and react. So I gave you a long answer, but it was the first time somebody asked that, and I wanted to make sure we had a really thorough answer to that. All right. I like that I can show the questions here. All right, let's go over to the Instagram. Hi. Immediately, Instagram gives me hearts. Yay, thank you. All right. Sandy Glenny wants to know, could this protocol help for celiac disease? So actually, yes. I've only had a few people with celiac do my rapid recovery program, and I base results off of that rapid recovery program because it's a program where I am overseeing it. So every day I'm looking at, what did you eat? How did you sleep? What's your stress? What's your relationships like? What's your food intake? All that kind of stuff every single day. So I'm able to really make sure that people are doing it correctly. And that's important, right? Because when I talk to people, it's not always a thing. Like today I talked to someone, she goes, I'm hyper-nourishing, although I do eat off plan. And then I looked at her numbers. She's not hyper-nourishing. She's telling herself she's hyper-nourishing, but she's not. She weighs her kale with the stems on and then takes the stems off and puts them in. That is not hyper-nourishing because you're not hitting the numbers, right? She's nourishing and it's wonderful, but it's not exactly right. So when I'm overseeing it, I'm very, very picky. I look at every line of what you did. I look at pictures. People who've done rapid recovery know that we are very detail oriented. So for people who've done it for rapid recovery, I have 3 cases that I can think of off the top of my head, and all 3 were able to reverse all the symptoms and go back to eating gluten again, which I don't recommend people just dive into that without having a physician, somebody overseeing you. But one of them is a doctor who was so sensitive to gluten that if somebody else ate it in the room or cut it on a cutting board and she breathed it in, she would react. Really, really, really bad symptoms. And after doing 6 weeks full program, she was able to actually eat gluten-containing food again with no reaction. So that was pretty cool. I forgot what she first ate, if it was a piece of bread or a cracker or something, but she was astonished. I've had someone do my rapid recovery program, group program many, many years ago. She made a video about it, who had celiac and diabetes, and she had type 1 diabetes, and not only did her insulin needs go down, but the celiac disappeared. And she said the celiac limited her life more than the diabetes. There's no shot for that. So it's been really cool. And it's interesting. I've had some recent pushback on that. I've been doing this for a long time. And when I first came out with the fact that I'm lupus free, a lot of pushback. No, you can't do this. It was before everybody was claiming different nutrition plans and stuff for autoimmune. It was, no, there's no cure. You can't do this. Now it's accepted. Of course, there's a diet for autoimmune. No problem, right? But I was on a radio or a podcast recently, a Fox News podcast, and the person with the podcast actually has celiac. And I was trying to explain to her what my results were, and she unleashed on me. She was so pissed off that anyone could say that you could possibly reverse it, even though she didn't have it until recently. So something brought it on. She wasn't born with it. Something triggered it, but the idea that you can untrigger it and go back, she was mad about. But she totally accepted the idea that you can reverse other autoimmune diseases. So there's always a pushback at first, but the results have been really, really good. It's a small number, but the results have been pretty astonishing. So I highly, highly recommend it. All right, let's go over to this side here. Let's get to YouTube. Let's see. All right. Adolf, what can your protocol do for eyesight and brain health? So all new questions today. This is fun. So it's actually really been impressive and exciting what this has done for eye health. I never really thought about the eyes in terms of, when I'm looking at people's overall health and nutrition for disease, right? That eyesight, especially vision, it never really was a thought. And in a lot of ways, when I first started doing this, especially, I was looking at results for immune function and autoimmune disease, right? And then I started noticing, wow, diabetes is gone in 4 weeks. That's pretty cool. Well, that makes sense. Okay, heart disease, blood sugar, cholesterol. Okay, that's disappearing in less than a month. All those issues, awesome. But then other things start to happen where we go, wow, how's that possible? How's that possible? Like, now we've had many people whose HPV went away, like negative for HPV, and cervical dysplasia going away, and all these other things where you go, oh my God, I was taught that was permanent. I was taught you couldn't do that. And things keep happening. So now I'm not shocked anymore, but it's always exciting. And so one of the really fun things in every rapid recovery group, and we have one right now, they're just in their second week, so it's coming soon. In every rapid recovery group, we have people who are middle-aged who suddenly don't need their reading glasses anymore, or suddenly don't need their distance vision glasses anymore. So just the nourishment alone changed their vision. Now we do know, like, there's little things where people say, eat carrots for your vision. Well, if you want beta carotene, if you're doing hypernourishment, you got so much beta carotene that usually, like, your hands get orange, or the bottom of your hands and feet might be yellow or orange. Sign of nourishment. When people get nervous about it, I'm like, no, this is your full year-round tan. It's beautiful, right? I've been orange for a long time, and nobody questions it. They're like, oh, you got good skin. It's a beta carotene glow, right? So that's actually really good for your eyes and your vision. We've also had multiple people reverse glaucoma, completely reverse glaucoma. We had somebody, Gerard, who made a video for us, who in his late 70s completely reversed glaucoma by week 5 of the rapid recovery group. I had somebody who had no vision start to be able to see out of that eye again. She started to be able to see shadows and shapes again when she'd already had no vision for years, and surgery didn't work. So, and in addition to that, we've had a lot of people with itises, inflammation in the eye, uveitis, Sjogren's disease, birdshot uveitis, also Graves' eye disease, all of whom have been able to have recovery and reversal using the Goodbye Autoimmune Disease protocol. So it is, it's basically, you think about it this way, your circulatory system, your blood, takes all your nutrition to every organ of your body, right? So good nutrition is going to have a positive effect on every organ of your body. And if you've got inflammation or injury in any area of your body, delivering that nutrition will allow recovery to happen, will allow repair work to happen. If you've got suboptimal nutrition, then your body's going to prioritize, right? So if you have suboptimal nutrition, your body's going to prioritize the organs necessary for keeping you alive, right? If you've got superior nutrition, if you are overdosed in nutrition from hypernourishment, now you've got leftover nutrition to go repair stuff that maybe wouldn't have been repaired otherwise. That's why I always tell people, when your skin is really glowing, that means you got leftover nutrition, because your body's like, okay, we got the heart, we got the kidneys, we got the eyes, we got the thyroid. Just all right, the skin can have the rest. Right? If your hair starts growing double the speed it used to, you're nourished because your body's already is extra left over, right? So it's really been astonishing to see that so many things that I was taught were a sign of aging, I now look at as a sign of malnourishment over time, including things like vision. Same with brain health. Your brain is attached by this thing called your neck. And you're getting nourishment to your brain or malnourishing your brain, depending on what you're eating. Not every neck's as long as this one, but your neck is delivering nutrition. So those vessels travel, right? So for a lot of folks, they are extremely malnourished and dehydrated, and they're getting too much caffeine and too much sugar and too much processed junk, and it affects your brain. It affects cognition or thinking. It affects memory. And so it's a really important thing that you can do for your health of your brain, for your eyes. It's all going to be the same thing. And that's what I really want all of you guys to understand, is that there's not a different type of diet for different organs. Whoever's trying to sell you that, don't buy it, all right? We are an organism. And there is a right level of nutrition or type of nutrition that's going to optimize how the organism is functioning and able to repair itself. And when you deliver the right nutrients, your body uses those nutrients to do the job that it already knows how to do. You just got to give them what it needs and get out of the way. Cool question. All right, let's see. All right, I have to answer this one, even though it's another YouTube, but let's talk bowel movements. What should we expect? A lot. Bowel movements, it really depends. For most people, if you add hypernourishment, you're adding fiber and you're adding water and you're adding a lot of healthy fats from the omega-3s. Most people find they are pooping, and they're pooping green. It might be on the soft, mushy side if you're doing a lot of smoothies and water, and it might be pretty frequently. For some folks, it can be every time you pee, you got a little poop. Other folks, it might be just a couple times a day. As long as it's not explosive, as long as it's not, diarrhea of an accident, then that's fine. You can't go by that poop scale that people like to use, like that only like this nice curved banana shape is healthy. Nonsense. That's a load of crap too. I had to say it. It's just not true, right? You can eat McDonald's and have that shaped poop and then you're still unhealthy, right? So if you're eating a lot of mushy, fiber-dense foods, most likely you're going to have more mushy poop and guts. They might actually get fiber overload and get constipation. And those folks have to start way slower with lower doses, use the flax oil instead of the flax seeds, such things like that. But for most folks, they find an improvement in their ability to go, and they have glorious, wonderful, and green bowel movements. All right, let's see here. Let's go on to some more Facebook. Okay. All right, that's an interesting question. All right, let's see. Oi Lola says, hi, Dr. G. Doing the Goodbye Lupus Protocol, I've accidentally eaten foods that had seed oils, and my body's become more sensitive to it, inflammation jumping than before. Is this a normal part of the healing process? So one, be careful about what's accidental. Did you really not know, like, did you think it didn't have oil and then it did, and you had one bite and went, oh, that's oil, I better not eat that? Or did you not know and decided to eat it anyway? Did you notice it had oil, but you kept eating it? I know I'm picky, but I pay close attention to what people tell me. And I just want to make sure that you're not giving yourself permission to do things or telling yourself something on an accident that wasn't. So just be careful of that. Now, to address the actual question that you have. Most folks don't realize how sensitive they are to all these things because they eat so much of them, right? So if you are in pain and inflamed all the time, It's hard to know what's causing it, right? You might not realize that it's the milk you put in your coffee, and it's the ghee that you cooked your vegetables in, and that it's the bacon on your burger or whatever it is, right? Like you might not even notice because you're always feeling crappy. Once you start healing and you start feeling good, and then you eat something that's inflammatory and you feel the symptom, now you can tell. Now you know. So it's not that you're more sensitive to it in terms of your body's more reactive, but you're more aware of it because you were feeling better, right? So if you're feeling good and then you get an injury, you can feel it, you know it. If you're already in pain all the time, how do you even tell? So what it tells me though is that you're not fully healed, right? Because once you are fully healed and recovered, if you have the occasional oil or seeds or something, it won't bother you. You'll be fine. Even if it's pro-inflammatory, a body can handle a little bit of inflammation. I can eat nuts and seeds or even some of the oil, and it doesn't cause me any pain. Maybe some bloat because my body's not used to that, but there's no pain, right? So if you notice that, really all that tells you is don't eat that and keep going until you can get yourself to a state where you don't have any more inflammatory illness, and then you'll be more resilient. I do recommend that you give yourself about 6 months after you're symptom-free, not to have recreational foods, right? Foods that make you sick, just to make sure you don't scratch off your scab, right? You ever have a beautiful, nice scab covering up an ugly wound and you barely flick it and boom, it's off and you're bleeding? Some people do that on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and they're like, why don't I ever heal, right? Leave it alone, let it heal, let it form all fresh tissue, then you can scratch away and no blood, right? So just make sure you give yourself that time and you can lock it in, and then you'll know you're really healthy. So good questions, good questions. All right, Instagram, let's see what you got for me. ABC, 1, 2, 3, 7, 1, 5, 6. It doesn't go in the song. Wants to know, do you have to be gluten-free if you have lupus? Not necessarily, no. Actually, I've never had an issue with gluten personally. I'm a fan of gluten. No, I've never had a problem with it. And many people don't. I find a lot of the problem that people have with gluten-containing foods is that they're processed, right? If you're calling something gluten, but it's like bread from the bread aisle, well, that's not just gluten. That is highly processed food, right? If it doesn't even need a refrigerator and it's not going to get moldy, that's highly processed. So it might not be the gluten ingredient, but the processed food, right? So for example, for folks who are trying to do the Goodbye Lupus protocol and they're trying to add in all these healthy foods, or let me do it this way. If you're hypernourishing, let's say you're adding hypernourishment, but you're still eating other plant-based foods that are cooked. For most of those people, they can use Ezekiel bread, for example. I eat Ezekiel bread, and that is a sprouted bread with no preservatives. You have to keep it in the fridge or it gets moldy in like a day on the counter. It just can't tolerate it because there's no preservatives. I eat that stuff, no problem. And I've never had any issues. And most of my clients can do the same. So I think that there's a huge overestimation of how many people really have a problem with gluten. I think it's really that gluten's being blamed for the products that are being used with it. And a lot of the gluten-free products are highly processed as well. And I would never use them. So the more broad answer is no, not necessarily. Now, it's not a healing food, so there's no reason to eat it. And if you want to be extra safe, then don't, right? And then when you're feeling great, try introducing it back, but in an unprocessed form, and see if you actually have a problem with it or not. But in general, I don't think gluten is the enemy that it has been made out to be. All right, let's look over here. All right. All right, this is Jiro. Hello, I'm Marie. I was wondering, how do I join your rapid recovery group? I want to secure my spot right now. Thank you. The next group starts March 17th. If you want a spot in that one, it's already been enrolling. So that it's at goodbyelupus.com. So if you go to goodbyelupus.com, work with Dr. G, you'll see all the options there. So there are still spaces in the rapid recovery group. While I'm on it, people always ask me, when is the next 4-week spot? Because that's my private program. Right now, the next person can probably start the second week of April. So just so you know. But yeah, the group still has spots and we'd welcome you there. So, all right, goodbyelupus.com. Let's hide that one. Let's look for another one that's a question. Let's see. Okay. Veronica from Argentina. I'd like to try your Goodbye Lupus protocol for ankylosing spondylitis with the addition of tofu for lunch, quinoa, oats, buckwheat for breakfast, honey, and some walnuts. Well, that will not be the Goodbye Lupus protocol then. So just be careful about that. So what you're talking about really is hypernourishment. So I know sometimes it can be confusing at first if you're new to my world. One of the best resources you can use besides my actual books like Goodbye Lupus, Goodbye Autoimmune Disease Protocol, or Goodbye Autoimmune Disease is go to smoothieshred.com, and join our Facebook community. I know most people in the Facebook world are my age or older, right? So like anybody in their mid 40s and up. But if you want to, that is a free community we have with thousands of people all over the world. And in the file section, my husband actually made a chart, a guide of what the hypernourishment versus Goodbye Lupus protocol versus Goodbye Autoimmune Disease protocol. And there's a lot of resources there too. But anyway, if you're adding hypernourishment, you can add it to that diet. And it may or may not work, right? We don't know. Hypernourishment will add nutrition. Then whether or not that's enough for you to get those results, you will only know after you do it. So you give yourself, since you're doing it on your own, like a month or so and see. If you really want to be on the Goodbye Lupus protocol, you're going to take out anything that's inflammatory. So honey would be pro-inflammatory. That's a sugar. You would take down the walnuts because those are pretty high in omega-6. And you focus in on the healthier plant-based foods. If you really want to be all in, then you take out the cooked foods. So how extreme you want to be or need to be, I always base that off results. There are plenty of people who add hypernourishment to a plant-based diet and they feel great. And that's wonderful. I want it to be easier. I really do. I'm not trying to make your life hard. But if you're not getting results, give yourself about a month or so. If you're not getting results, then turn up the intensity and let's go all in in a bigger way and see if you can get the results that you want that way. All right, let's see. All right. And this actually goes with this question from Facebook. If your lupus is not that aggressive, could you reverse it by hypernourishing? Potentially. Although most likely you need to do it on a plant-based diet because nothing picks at that scab of healing like meat and dairy and saturated fats from all the different kinds of animal products, processed foods. So if you do an unprocessed plant-based diet with hypernourishment, that would be the minimum that I'd say that you could put any real hope. There's always hope, but a really solid chance of it working without you having to be more aggressive. That's the minimum that I usually see be effective in any meaningful period of time. Okay, Insta. I haven't forgotten you, I promise. All right. This is one I've answered on the last 7, so I'm not going to do this one again. Let me see. All right. This is an interesting one. Yagator. I'm having some flare-ups. Do you have any tips to relieve me of the pains? So I'm assuming that you're asking, besides hypernourishment and taking good care of my mental health and emotional health and making sure I get enough sleep and all the stuff that I tell you guys every day, is there something that can acutely in the moment help with pain? So when it comes to pain, I do think it's important to do something to help yourself feel better, right? When you're in a lot of pain, it causes stress as well. So sometimes it could even be things like distraction. I know for me, when I had my worst pains when I was dealing with lupus, going to school and doing things actually made me feel better because even though the pain was still there, my attention was off of it versus when I got home and my attention was on it. Sometimes icing can help. If you have inflamed joints, for example, icing can really help inflamed joints where you can put ice pack over it and try to bring that down. Remember, that is a type of pain treatment using things like ice. If you want something that's an herbal remedy, turmeric or really curcumin, they did some clinical trials using 1,000 milligrams twice a day of curcumin for people with rheumatoid arthritis, and they were able to reduce their pain medication intake. And then, of course, as soon as they switched them off of it onto the placebo, their pain went right back. So it's not a cure, but it's a natural pain medicine that doesn't cause ulcers. And sometimes you might need to use medicine. I am not one of those people. People often brag to me saying, like, I would never even take medicine for a headache. I'm against all medicine. And I'm always like, not me. I'm for whatever works. Like, I don't want to have a headache. So I'm really good at dealing with headaches because I was a severe migraine sufferer for so long. So I have lots of tricks, from everything from my nightly bath, my Theracane. I got a massage chair. I have a TENS unit. I have migraine sticks. I got all the things. But if nothing works, then I'm going to take an ibuprofen because I have life to live and I have things to do and I just don't want to have pain. So it's rare that I ever need anything for pain because I take really, really good care of myself. But I'm also a big bag of cells like everybody else. And sometimes I have pain and I don't get mad. I just do what I need to do to take care of it. So those are all the natural things. And if all else fails and you're suffering, then lean on your doctors while you're working on doing everything it takes for your health so that you don't experience those pains anymore, or at least not in the way that causes you that suffering. Okay. I am not, sometimes people get annoyed if I promote something that's a medical treatment versus a natural treatment, and they'll feel like I betrayed them. And I'm like, I'm not on any teams here. I'm not on the team of like only herbal and natural or only medical. I'm on the team of what works. I was sick for a dozen years of my life, and I've been healthy for almost 18. I want everyone to just feel good. My first goal is that you feel okay and you can live a life of meaning and purpose and enjoy your life, right? And everything you can do that'll help you do that, I'm for it. So my goal is to get you so healthy that you don't need to hang out with white coats anymore, right? Like this just, unless they're a family member and you like them, right? But my goal is you don't need them. But if in the meantime, while you're sick, a white coat can help you with your suffering or help slow down your disease while you're figuring out your diet and all those things, I'm still for it because I'm for you surviving and continuing on and living another day so that you can get your health back and also enjoy your life. So I am in the middle there. I am for what works. All right, let's see. Let's go over here again. Let's see here. All right, let's talk to Linda. Hi, Linda. Dr. G, can you talk a little bit about acid reflux? What foods are an absolute no-no to heal? Reflux is kind of complicated in that there's so many different issues that can cause it, that can continue it. And it's usually different from person to person. So there are some things that are fairly universal. So for example, high amounts of caffeine cause reflux. Oily foods, animal foods can make them worse. So all of those things. If you already have reflux, then being over full can make it worse because, again, reflux is the movement of the food stomach acid coming up through the esophageal sphincter into your esophagus. Your esophagus doesn't have the right kind of lining to be resistant to the burning of the acid. Your stomach does. So even though there's acid in your stomach, you don't feel it because the acid is not affecting or hurting the stomach lining. But if a little bit's getting up into that esophagus, ow, right? It hurts and it could be dangerous because it could cause a precancer cancer condition in the esophagus if it's been going on long enough. So doctors are usually pretty quick to treat it because of that. Because it could develop into a cancer, they usually will want you on medicine for reflux. I had severe reflux, by the way, back in the day. One, it was way too much caffeine. I was a medical student and then an intern. So I thought caffeine was a food group. And two, prednisone. Being on prednisone also usually causes problems with reflux. In fact, my doctor back when I was 16 prescribed Tums with the prednisone, one for the calcium and the other is because he knew it was going to cause reflux or acid issues. So medicines can often do that. So you might want to look into that. There's so many different things that could be affecting it, making worse. If you're over full, that puts a lot of pressure on your esophageal sphincter. So if you tend to already have a problem where you get some movement or reflux through, if your stomach's full, it puts more pressure. So you might want to space out your food and water intake maybe every 2 hours or so that you have smaller amounts of food and water and you put less pressure on the esophageal sphincter, right? Another thing you can do is sleep at a 45-degree angle until the pain has resolved and healed. Not eating within a few hours before bed again, so that when you lie down, you don't get more movement up into the esophagus. There's so many different things. If you do have it chronically, it's a good idea to go ahead and go to a GI doctor and have them scope and make sure that the tissue's okay in your esophagus. Sometimes they can find a cause, like a problem with the esophageal sphincter. So there's a lot of things that can affect it. But for many people, just switching their diet really does the trick. Mine went away when I changed my diet. In fact, the only time I ever get any reflux symptoms is if I take an ibuprofen. So I really try not to, only for that reason. But in general, if you change your diet, you're going to have a much reduced risk of having those kind of problems. But while there are so many people who do rapid recovery go, oh my God, my reflux disappeared immediately. Some people find that it gets worse initially because they're so full, right? So basically what I'm saying is a lot of times we have to do this as a case-by-case basis to see what are your triggers, what is it that's making this worse for you, and kind of customize. But if any of those suggestions help, then hopefully that can help some of you that are dealing with it. Medication worldwide, sucralfate was huge for me because it's also known as carafate, super cheap medicine that coats the esophageal lining that you take it before you eat. And for me, that's what got me off of Nexium, because even though I was eating healthy, it was so chronic that no matter what I ate, it burned. And when I took that, it healed up and then I never needed it again. So, there's medical thing. Most of the current medical stuff is all like PPI inhibitors. Like they're all designed to interfere with the function of the acid. I like to stay off of that stuff. And what I usually prescribe my patients is something like sucralfate or carafate, so that while we're fixing their diet and adjusting all these other issues, that they have something that can help with the symptoms. So, all right, that's all I got for you right now for reflux. All right, let's see here. This is a good one here. So David wants to know, have you seen an elevation in PSA, prostate-specific antigen, in men who are on the protocol? Thanks. Actually, the opposite. I have seen people with either prostatic hypertrophy and with prostate cancer whose PSA have dropped dramatically, like off a cliff dramatically by doing the protocol. So it is a really good thing to do for men. Absolutely 100%. All right, let's hide that. Let's go over to Instagram. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. Patricia wants to know, I have so much energy at night from hypernourishing. Is insomnia a normal side effect? That is a side effect of the program, is really good energy. Whenever people say, like, how do I get Dr. G energy? I'm like, nourish, nourish, and get a good night's sleep. I do find that I do not like having smoothies at night because smoothies are really activating. If you have especially a Vitamix blender and it rips open all those cell walls and you're getting this dose of vitamins and minerals all at once, it feels good. It floods you with all this nutrition and it can make you feel very energetic and supercharged. So I like to do the smoothies during the day. That's what I'm juiced up on right now, is my smoothies. And then at night I switch to salads, and I find that I sleep better. If I have smoothies at night, I tend to get more activated too. So I like switching over to the salads at night, and that might be able to help. Okay, let's see here. This one looks like an easy one on Instagram. 8 Costco is 2 hours away and access to Power Greens is hard to come by. Is there a disadvantage to spring mix or lettuces for the smoothie? Yes, you're not hypernourishing with spring mix or lettuce, but you don't need Costco. All right. We're not sponsored by Costco. Costco we like because it just has bulk, and we need bulk. I mean, in my family, I have my husband, my 2 sons, my mom, me. We're hypernourishing. We need a lot of greens, right? So the Power Greens are awesome because they're 24-ounce bags. But most local supermarkets have kale and spinach and even boxes or bags of greens, Power Greens. So you want to use the ones that are they usually call them super greens or something, like a mix of spinach, kale, chard, cabbage, all the high nutrient vegetables, or you can just get them separately and mix your own. But the lettuces, well, you can have as much as you want. Those are not hypernourishment. So, all right, let's look back over here. Happy to folks who needed the pep talk. Let's see. All right, this is another new question. So Ben and Jess on YouTube want to know, how can I successfully explain and encourage my 15-year-old that vegetable carbs and vegetable calories are good and different from bad calories? So calories are very frustrating, aren't they? Because they are useless. They are useless. Calories are an outdated way of calculating food content. But the metaphor my husband came up with is my favorite. He said that, so basically, calories are a measurement of the heat that is released by a food when you burn it, okay? So he said it's like measuring the value of your house by how hot it is when you set it on fire. It's not useful, right? So you can show them this video, your 15-year-old, if you want. But basically, we have, for a long time, not really used effective ways of looking at food, especially when it comes to weight, right? So it is true that if you burn more calories than you consume, you will have a deficit that can cause weight loss. The problem is if you are at a deficit of nourishment, you're also going to slow down your metabolism, which means as soon as you get to a normal level of calories again, you're going to gain the weight back, right? Which is what most of our experiences have been, right? Like when I used to do diets, and I used to do them, in my 20s, before I met my Thomas, when I used to do diets, I would always restrict calories, right? I would do slim fast or whatever, and I would restrict calories and I would lose weight. But then the moment that I added back my French fries and pizza and the other stuff that I ate, I would immediately gain it back and then some, right? One of the funniest memes I saw was one that said, like, I only wish that I weighed what I used to the first time I went on a diet, right? Because those of you who've been dieting for a long time, you know that, right? The more you diet, the worse it becomes because it's chronic malnourishment. So calories aren't meaningful and they can lead you to take the wrong action. The other thing is not every calorie is the same, right? So think of it this way. If you had 1,000 calories of kale, you cannot and will not get fatter. There's no ability for you to pull fat from kale, right? But if you had 1,000 calories from pizza, you could. If you had 1,000 calories from burgers, you could. If you had 1,000 calories from French fries, you could. So calories tell you nothing about food content or the impact of that food on your body. It just tells you how hot it burns, and that just doesn't matter. So what you want to do is eat nutrient-dense foods. And when you eat nutrient-dense foods, which are really going to be the high-nutrient vegetables, omega-3s, things like that, when you eat those foods, you will create a fast metabolism. And a fast metabolism will burn fat, build muscle, and heal disease, right? Which is why I originally did this as the last diet I ever went on. And I've never gained the weight back. Even through pregnancy, of course, I puke. But eventually I do gain the weight, about 40 pounds by the end. And it just goes back off again. Like my body wants to be small. It wants to be like this because my metabolism is very, very fast. So that's a really important thing. I recommend also you could give your 15-year-old, if they're interested in learning about it, give them my husband's book, Miracle Metabolism. It is that one there. He's got my cute little husband, Thomas, holding his vegetables. And it's all about how you can create a fast metabolism at any age using the right nutrition in combination with exercise. So the cool thing about hypernourishment is the more you eat, the more fat loss you get, the faster your metabolism gets. The more you eat, the more you can burn fat, which for me always made me happy because I like to be full. I'm one of those people, like, I've never been good at like eat till you're satisfied, like my mom could do. I eat till my stomach is pushing into my button of my jeans. That's what I like. I like to feel full, right? So unlimited food sounds much better to me. So I could eat 3,000 calories of smoothies and salads and chia pudding and all that stuff, and I'm still going to be tiny. It doesn't, because the calories don't matter. It's the content. All right. So hopefully that helps. And I'm glad that you want to teach your team the right way to go about nutrition. We're hoping that spreads throughout the world so people can stop counting those calories. All right, let's see here. Let's get a Facebook one. Oh, you're welcome, Sujata. I appreciate that. Thank you, Debbie. Let's see here. All right, Marie Mancera, how can I lower triglycerides? I'm whole food plant-based. Well, one thing that you want to do, sounds like you already did it, is get rid of the worst culprits, which will be meat and dairy, including things like butters and ghee, all that kind of stuff, and high oil foods. All of those things can have a negative effect on your cholesterol, right? Negative as in bad, raise it, not negative as in reduce it. Anyway, want to be clear there. The other thing that most people are missing, though, is healthy fats. So you need to get certain healthy fats, and that actually helps reduce things like triglycerides. So I've had a lot of folks come to me who are already whole food plant-based, and they're like the no fat kind, no oil, no fat, nothing. And they're stuck. Either their blood sugar never came fully down, their weight never fully came down, or things like their blood pressure or triglycerides, cholesterol never came fully down, and they don't know why they're not continuing to get progress. And so what I do is I add back what they're missing, that hypernourishment piece, especially the fats. A lot of people are so fat phobic now, and that's not the problem. It's not fat in general, it's which fats. So when you add in avocados and flax seeds, chia seeds, cold pressed flax oil, it actually reduces their cholesterol. And it makes life more enjoyable, makes food more enjoyable to have those. You also have more satiety. And I've been doing this for a long time with folks and had those results. And again, my teaching all comes from results only, never theory. I actually think it's unethical to teach theory. No matter how smart you are, you're still wrong a lot. Every person is going to be wrong a lot with just what they think in their head. And the smarter people are, the more they assume they're right. And I have learned through my wisdom of becoming almost 46 now that people are wrong all the time, even smart people. And you've got to go off results, not off of thoughts. Okay. So I only teach results, and my results have shown that you can eat unlimited avocados, omega-3 fatty acids like chia seeds, flax seeds, cold pressed flax oil, and you're only going to get a reduction in cholesterol. Well, finally, a few years ago, I think at this point it was, I have to think by where I was living. My husband and I have wanderlust, so we move a lot. So I'm like, okay, so 1, 2, 3, I think it was 4 years ago. There was a study that they did where they actually took people who were on a meat and dairy diet with high cholesterol, and they did 2 groups. One group they took and they put on a plant-based diet with no fat at all, nothing. So grains and fruits and vegetables, okay, but calorie matched it. And then the second group, they put on a plant-based diet, but they calorie matched fat from avocados to the fat they were getting from meat and dairy, all right? So they either replaced the fat from the meat and dairy with wheat grains, or they replaced it with avocados. The people on the fat-free plant-based diet, their cholesterol dropped dramatically. The people who are on the avocado-based diet, it dropped almost double what the other group did. So enjoy your avocados, enjoy your fast if you aren't, and that should be the trick to get you there the rest of the way. All right, let's finish this off with my Instagram. Let's see. Get a good one. Let's get it. Not that all of you don't have good ones, but I want to get one that's universally going to help folks. Let's see. Okay, so Lucky Cat 170 wants to know, what vegetables do nephritis patients usually eat and how much? So nephritis would be if you had inflammation and really starting to failure of kidney function. Remember, itis means inflammation. So people with nephritis don't always have to change their diet. It depends on how severe the impact is on the kidney function, right? So one of the jobs, the main jobs of your kidney is to concentrate electrolytes properly in your bloodstream and your urine, right? So if you have too much sodium, takes that sodium, puts it out through your urine, right? It'll move sodium, potassium, other electrolytes, things like that, right? It's also its job to block big molecules like proteins from getting out. Those are supposed to stay in, right? So that's your kidney's job. Now, if there's not significant impairment there, you should be able to do the protocol normally like everybody else, reverse the cause of the nephritis, get your kidney function back, live your life. And I've done that an enormous amount of times. I've only published a couple of cases of it, but in my everyday practice, people reverse nephritis every day. And it works really well. Kidneys actually readily and quickly absorb nutrition and improve. We can do it usually for folks with kidney disease. I have them get weekly labs. And on a weekly basis, we can see improvement in GFR, creatinine, BUN, all that stuff. It improves even of the shortest time I've seen an improvement that someone actually got a lab test was 4 days apart. So kidneys quickly get better, and you can literally measure it on a lab test. So for many people who are in stage 1, stage 2, they can do it just a normal hypernourishment program, or usually they'll do like a goodbye autoimmune disease program because we got to save that organ as quickly as possible. You want to be strict. For people who have impairment where they can't successfully concentrate potassium, sodium, that kind of thing, then I switch them into a low potassium version of it. So you won't use spinach. You won't use bananas and tomatoes and avocados, but you'll use low potassium cruciferous vegetables and fruits. We use chia instead of flax, etc., so that we can get them the best nutrition they can without overwhelming their kidneys' ability to function. I also have to investigate to see how much they tolerate water and what kind of water restriction they might need, because oftentimes they can't do the full water or they drop their blood sodium levels too much. So usually when it comes to nephritis, I recommend you actually work with me so I can figure out how much nutrition you can tolerate. And there's a good chance if you have impairment that you won't be able to do the full hypernourishment, but a modified version that will work for you to get you healthy enough that maybe you can go to the full version, but at least get your kidneys working and healing, even if you can't do the full amount. And the good news is I've seen people with the GFR, I think the lowest GFR of someone who's done my program was 5. Okay. You want that to be like 105 and still doubled it within a matter of a couple of weeks, right? That even folks who can't eat full hypernourishment, they get better as long as they don't eat off plan. Kidneys are extremely sensitive, even to cooked foods. Cooked foods, they stabilize and stop getting better. We take the cooked food out, boom, it keeps going up. Also, for people with stage 1 or so, some of them can do hypernourishment, plant-based diet, and improve fully. With more severe cases, the raw program is really the way to go, the Goodbye Autoimmune Disease Protocol. So, all right, that was a fun one. You guys, you came at me today with so many new questions. Usually there's a lot of repeats. I think that this was a really good session because there's a lot of new stuff that you guys asked me, which is why I went a little bit longer in some of the answers, because I haven't answered those ones before, and I thought that'd be more beneficial for you guys. I appreciate all of you guys showing up from all over the place, and I am here for you guys. I'm happy to continue to do this as long as you guys are getting benefit. Please do let me know how you're doing. I actually love it when people tag me on social media and post their results and how excited they are. You know, the way that we make this become a mainstream movement is by people sharing it until it just cannot be denied, right? The truth can never be denied forever. It always comes to light. And when we continue to share our results and our support from each other, we can change the way medicine is practiced. And it is changing. It is changing. I've taught medical students and doctors from all over the world. There are more and more people who are embracing this in the medical field as well. But until it becomes the norm, well, we got to keep sharing. So let your friends and family know that they can always come to these Q&As and get the information, share your recipes with them, and of course, share your results. And let's all work together to keep getting everybody healthy. You and all the other people who need to hear this and benefit from this. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same channel, for another Q&A. All right. And just in case you guys follow Chef AJ on YouTube, I'm going to start, I just started on Monday, the 4th Monday of the month. I'm going to be on her channel teaching as well. She invited me to come and teach on her channel on a regular basis. So you can always see me there as well, especially those YouTube folks over there who are looking for more content. All right. I will see you next week, everybody. Goodbye. Good to see all of you. Bye, everybody.